So unfortunately, I encountered girls as young as 14. Some of them being forced to strip and sell their bodies even by their own moms, which is actually really common. Familial human trafficking, where there's either a parent involved, an aunt, uncle involved, someone within the immediate nucleus of the family that's involved in this horrible crime. So I did meet girls as young as 14 that were being forced to go and make money, and they would have to sell their bodies in order to make money.
Welcome to the Cyber Health Podcast. I'm Stephen Pirano, your host. And first off, I'd like to thank all our followers and viewers for continuing to support the channel. We do appreciate you. Although this podcast is primarily for technology and the healthcare industry, I wanted to do this episode because it's something that's very important. It may be a subject that makes people uncomfortable. I think that this is a good opportunity to shed some light on it and to have a discussion and to find out how you can get involved and help. So I'm excited to introduce my guest. Today I have in the studio Tania Andre. She is the founder of the Mavuno Project, and it is a human trafficking awareness organization. Thank you, Tania, for being here.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me.
Thank you. Not to get into too much of the detail and having you to have to relive these awful, memories. How did you end up getting involved then with the Mavuno Project and deciding to start that organization?
Yes. So I always say that purpose isn't necessarily what you do. I think what you do helps you get to purpose. So right before I started the Mavuno Project, I had, moved here from college. I moved here from Tennessee, and about probably more than 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And I moved here. I landed a job in property management, and I moved up, and it was amazing. I couldn't believe that I had moved from Tennessee to this big city, Miami, Florida, and that I had landed a really good job. And I started growing in my position, which was marketing, sales when it comes to leasing units, and then moving all the way up within different companies to become like VP of marketing. So right when I'm at my highest point, or you would think, right, my highest point within my career, I realized that I was super unhappy. From the outside looking in, you would have thought, man, this girl has it all together. I'm living in a high-rise building overlooking the beach down in Sunny Isles.
Wow.
Everything from the outside looking in was perfect, was okay. But, I was dying inside. I was dying a slow death inside because I never really took the time to heal and to heal properly. And even as business professionals, we can get so caught up in what we do, in our job, in trying to find this image of success that we lose ourselves to the point that we don't take time to heal those broken places in our heart.
Wow.
Yeah. So shortly after I quit my job, I crashed. I called the VP of the company, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I honestly didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was living in a great place. So I abruptly quit my job. So then to make ends meet, I said, well, what can I do? I didn't want to go into another job because I knew inside that I just needed time. I needed space to just kind of find myself again, find my happiness again. And I said, well, I know how to sell things, right? This is how I was able to move up, was selling, creating marketing plans, and, trying to sell. But I really didn't have like a business plan or anything like that. All I knew is that I needed to pay the rent the next month,
Right, of course.
So I started selling jewelry to friends and family. And It worked out for a couple months, but then slowly after that, like one, if you're a friend, you can only buy a certain amount of jewelry,
Right,
or
sure.
just like I can't buy jewelry every day, every
Right.
month. So, and obviously without a plan, without a business plan, I found myself needing to make ends meet. So I started to sell jewelry in the parking lot of strip clubs. And as odd as that sounds, I really felt like I needed to be there. Something kept calling me there. I don't know if it was me just thinking, well, there's a lot of women there that go there. And that's just where maybe I'm gonna, be able to sell more jewelry so I can make ends meet. But later I found out that there truly was a divine purpose for me being there. So I stood in the parking lot for about 6 months selling jewelry every night till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And it was successful. I was like, wow, this is really working. So not just women buying jewelry, but men as they were walking in, I had some men jewelry there. So they were buying jewelry. And I just kind of became this like stable figure in the parking lot of this strip club down south in Miami. So after 6 months, the owner of the company comes out and he says, you're so faithful coming here to work every single night. He goes, I normally charge vendors to go inside and sell whatever they want to sell inside of the club, but I'm not going to charge you. But I have a table inside the locker room that you can set up your jewelry and you can sell to the girls inside of the locker room. Now, I've never grown up in any environment like that. I had never been to a strip club to this point. The furthest I've ever been was in the parking lot. Right. Like that was the furthest I've ever been. So I was a bit scared. I didn't know what that looked like. But again, I felt a tug within me. I felt that tug within me. For me, I say it was God, so I felt that tug and I went in and sure enough, they had a table for me in the locker room. And I started to set up my jewelry there. And for the longest time, I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't know what to say. I just felt like I just needed to observe and learn the culture. It's a whole different lifestyle when you get into those places, when you're in the back scene of those places. So while I'm sitting there and learning, yes, I'm still selling jewelry, but I'm overhearing conversations. And the conversations that I'm overhearing, unfortunately, after it gets to a certain time in the strip club environment, the girls end up drinking. They end up, having to drug themselves a lot to continue to do what they're doing. And when those things happen, a lot of truth starts coming out. So I started to hear things of several of the girls talking about their sexual abuse, even as a child. And I said, whoa, that happened to me. That's something I went through. And I never shared it with anyone. I was never open with it to anyone. So obviously I always felt like I was alone, or maybe I was just one of the few that ever, happened to. And there I started to hear that a lot of the girls in there had been through that trauma. And it actually gave me a sense of like, wow, these girls are like me. I'm not any better. They've been through what I went through. And then after that, then I started to hear about human trafficking. And I didn't hear about it in the word human trafficking. I didn't even know that word was even in existence at the time. I'm talking back in 2009. No one was really talking about it. But I could hear the practice of human trafficking. I started to hear girls talking about their boyfriend, but then I couldn't understand why maybe 3 or 4 girls were calling the same guy their boyfriend. And now looking back, that's just a term. That's a term that some of them use, and it's their trafficker, you know? And I was just lost. I started to feel like, whoa, this is something completely different. I didn't understand why I would meet girls from other countries that would be forced to go there and dance and then eventually have to sell themselves. I didn't understand why I would say, hey, like, what are you doing here? Where are you from? And they would say things like, I'm from the Dominican Republic. I'm from Venezuela. I'm from Cuba. And they would say, well, I'm here because I have to pay the person that brought me here back. And you think, well, it seems like that's a exchange that they agreed upon. But in reality, a lot of that was forced. They got sold into a dream of coming here. And then when they got here, they were trapped in the sense of, whoa, now I have to pay this debt back. And that's human trafficking. So even though I didn't know the terminology, I was seeing it playing out right in front of my eyes. And I knew that I was seeing something horrible, that I was seeing something that the world didn't really know about. And I found my purpose. I found my purpose inside of a strip club selling jewelry. And I said, this is it. You know, I always say that sometimes when we're looking for self-healing, we need to look at ourselves in the mirror like an actual practice. Look at ourselves in the mirror and say, this happened to me. I have to confront it. I have to confront the pain and say, this happened to me. But now what? You know, kind of like surrendering it. Surrender that pain, surrender that experience, that trauma, and say, okay, now what? Now what can I do to turn this around? You know, so that's what I did. And I said, you know what? I have to tell people. I have to warn and tell people of what's going on. One, because I didn't want any other girl to go through what I had been through. Whether that was child sexual abuse, domestic violence, human trafficking. I didn't want any other woman or man to deal with any of those traumas. And I needed to tell people that this was going on, and it was going on in plain sight. And that's how I started the Mavuno Project.
Wow. And wow, that's a very interesting story, right?
Yeah.
How you got involved with that. And to see that firsthand, I'm sure, how long was that after you really started seeing the other side to strip clubs and, like you said, the behind the scenes?
I was in there. I was in the parking lot for 6 months, and I worked in the strip clubs for a total of 2 years. So now it didn't just become that one strip club, but that one strip club opened the door to other strip clubs in the Miami area. So I was seeing it in all the other strip clubs, not just in that one place.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a period of about 2 years that I was in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you see it on the adult level.
Yes.
So
Well,
it's not just children, it's adults as well.
it was both. So unfortunately, I encountered girls as young as 14. Some of them being forced to strip and sell their bodies even by their own moms. Which is actually really common, familial human trafficking, where there's either a parent involved, an aunt, uncle involved, you know, someone within the immediate nucleus of the family that's involved in this horrible crime. So I did meet girls as young as 14 that were being forced to go and make money, and they would have to sell their bodies in order to make money. And that was very tragic. And then, yes, I did see adult women that were being trafficked, and I saw women that were there by choice. I mean, I saw it all. But the majority of what I focused on were obviously the ones that I felt like I had a story that I identified with, which were the ones that were there, having had been through the experience I went through, and obviously the ones that were being trafficked.
And people from the outside, when they hear stories like this, especially when you mention like the 14-year-old that's being, trafficked by a family member, people will say, well, why doesn't the 14-year-old girl just walk away or don't come? Don't go there to the strip club. And obviously it's more complicated than that, but can you shed some light on that?
I want to say it's a mental conditioning. So you're talking about health, right? So actually, I believe human trafficking is a health condition. It's a mental health condition. It's a lot of times it's a brainwashing of the mind. It's, honey, we need money. It could have been just out of pure necessity. We need money. We need to pay the rent. This is what mommy does, and I need you to do this. And as a child who probably knows very little about, the sexualizing, they probably think, well, this is what mommy does. This is what I need to do. Or maybe that child has already been experiencing trauma in their home. There's a grooming process as well, at home, or whether it's with a boyfriend, quote unquote boyfriend, that's already trying to groom them and make them think that, hey, this is normal. This is okay. This is what you do. And look, you're making a little bit of money. And this is life. This is how it is. And when you don't know any better, you don't know better. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned sexualizing. How do you think Hollywood and the media and even music play a role in that?
Yeah, I know that's a big thing now, with a lot of the media, the news media that's going on within some of the celebrities. I think that there is a push to sexualize children through music, through not just music, but through social media. The internet, social media, websites, it's so accessible. I could just be on Instagram and put in hashtag something, and I'm going to see any and every kind of picture I want, and what people don't realize is that when young children in their young minds, when they see those types of images, it actually creates a shock in their brain system, in their mind, that they are now, whoa, what is this? Why did this make me feel a certain way? And then they begin that process of either it could be porn addiction. And then we know that from watching to acting, that isn't a very long road. Sure. So I believe that there is a push to sexualize children in some way. Am I going to say that it's only through Hollywood, that every, entertainer or anything has that in mind? No, I would never say that. But I do believe that there is something there.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so and then piggybacking on that, what would you recommend like parents to do that they could do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as you know, I also own Arc Solvers, cybersecurity. You have my husband here not too long ago with me.
What's up, Andre?
Hey. We always recommend parents to monitor what their kids are doing. If you have a child at home, there's no privacy. I'm sorry, you're living under my roof. I get to see what you're doing at all times, and there's ways that you can do that. So we always advise parents to put software on your children's phones, on their laptops, and there are several different softwares out there. Net Nanny, I can mention a whole bunch. I don't like to necessarily recommend just one, but there are out there. If you Google them, they're out there. And you can put those softwares on your kids' phones, on their computers, and you can see everything from what they Google, like their Google searches, to the chats they're going into, the websites they're going into. You can even turn off the internet on them. Say, hey, you know what? There's no need for you to be on the internet after 9 o'clock at night. Like, why would any child have to be on the internet after 9 o'clock at night? Because unfortunately, at night after, or not even at night, kids are curious. They hear things, they see things, they want to Google, they want to search, So that is a way of protection. It's get into their systems, monitor what they're doing, and let them know that, hey, I'm mom, I'm dad. We're the bosses here. There's no privacy because we love you. We love our children. And if you love your children, you're going to make sure that they're, in the right spaces. And then, of course, there's also gaming. And, who are your kids talking to while they are gaming? There's a huge push in the gaming industry. Predators are coming into games, or coming into Roblox, or coming into all types. Actually, Roblox was just listed on the National Center for Sexual Exploitation, just listed Roblox on their Dirty Dozen list. And it's really a campaign and a push for Roblox to really hone in on their security, on who they're letting, in there to chat with children. We know cases of children having been lured from their homes through games. So it really is a monitoring. But then it also goes back to loving. Love your child. And I know that's sometimes hard because a lot of us grew up in an era where we probably don't know what that is. We probably don't know maybe we didn't have a dad. Maybe we didn't have a mom. We don't know what that looks like. But affirm your children. Love on your children. Let them know, hey, you're wanted here. There's nothing out there that's going to love you more than the love that you're going to get here. Affirm them so that they don't have to go out looking for that affirmation. They don't have to go out looking for that self-esteem, booster that they're looking for. They have everything that they need at home. And I know that that's not the case for every child. And then obviously in those cases, hopefully there's mentors that come along, those children to give them the healthy affirmation that they need.
Sure. Yeah.
That's
great advice. And in your expertise, what would you say is an appropriate age to start having these conversations in the household with your children about being aware of what's going on?
Yeah. So having been, a victim, survivor of child abuse, I started young with my own daughter. We started having conversation as young as 2 years old. And it starts as simple as identify body parts. I know there's a lot of parents that, since we are in a health podcast, right? I can say, proper names. Your vagina is a vagina. Right. It's not a cookie.
Right.
It's not a flower. That flower or cookie. And I know parents that they tell their kids those names for, don't. No, because the day that my child comes home and says, Mommy, someone touched my cookie, what am I going to think? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, no, my child knows that her vagina is a vagina. Her butt is her butt, and these are places that you don't touch at the young age of 2 years old. So properly naming your children's parts and letting them know those names, which are science, they're science, right? It's totally appropriate for children. And then after that, I started saying, hey, these are parts that no one touches, and I even, daddy doesn't touch that because it's happened, right? In other cases, daddy doesn't touch that. a medical professional, if they're checking you and they are with mommy, mommy's in the room, or there's, daddy's in the room, there's an adult there with you, and starting to let her know those boundaries. Teachers don't touch those areas. And if they do, I tell my daughter, to scream really loud and to scream and yell at them, don't touch me, and then run and tell an adult. And then those are things that I reinforce every year after year. I don't hound her on it, but there's times where we have a conversation. Hey, mommy, do you remember what to do when this happens? Yes, mommy. I scream really loud and I go and run and tell an adult. I said, okay, we got this. So it starts even as young as that, and I know that's kind of hard. Some parents might say, whoa, but it's all about protection. And it's all about prevention. Yeah.
No, and it makes perfect sense. And as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, in the young ages, what about, it's a sensitive subject when you talk about religion.
Right.
But you also cannot not speak about the unfortunate shadow that's been over the Catholic religion and with the priest, and that long history of that issue with the priests and young boys. Is that still a big prevalent issue?
I think it's a prevalent issue everywhere. We heard about it in gymnastics. I don't know if you remember, a couple years ago, there was a coach, that abused several of our famous, athletes in the Olympics. And we hear about it in every sector of every profession. We hear about it in the school system where teachers are abusing kids, trafficking kids. We do unfortunately hear about it in churches of all different types of religions, because there's an evil out there, and unfortunately it's happening everywhere. That's why I say I don't trust any particular place more than I do the other. My mom always taught me, how you trust people? One eye closed and one eye open.
Right.
Always keeping on guard.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah.
And for the Mavuno Project, what is some of your initiatives to help combat this?
Yes. So right now we have two different programs. We have a local program, which we are aiming to go into as many schools possible to educate children. When we started, we did a push to educate parents. And then what we realized was that it wasn't going to the children's ears, right? These tactics that traffickers use to lure children was not getting to the children.
Why is that?
I think because parents are still scared. They're uncomfortable, talking to they don't know how. Maybe they're not even scared, but maybe they just don't know how. So we said, you know what, we're going to go directly into the schools. And we have a very safe, safe child-friendly curriculum where, I don't want to say curriculum. Curriculum sounds long. It's more of a workshop where we're teaching children as young as 8 years old. What are some of those tactics that traffickers are using to lure you in? So we talk about internet safety. We talk about buying expensive gifts. Like, hey, beware if you have an older friend or a friend that all of a sudden wants to, get you expensive gifts, because that's a way that children can get lured in. Beware of false promises. Hey, I can get you a better job, or kids don't necessarily work, but just beware of those things. So we talk about those tactics in the classroom, and it's been very effective, and parents love it. We don't go in depth into sex trafficking. That's not what the workshop is about, but it's more about a glorified safety, stranger danger type of a workshop.
Things to look out for.
Right. Things to look out for. And then we do an initiative that's called Kids United, and that's where we actually do bring in parents with their children, and we help them facilitate the conversation. So we do the workshop with the child and the parent together, so that then they can feel easy We facilitate, help the parents engage in these type of conversations. We make it really fun, interactive. We bring a DJ, we pass
Nice.
out gifts, and we bring in sponsors, free lunch and all goodies. We normally do it during going back to school, so we do going back to school supplies. So we make it interactive, and the parent does have to go with the child or a guardian. A guardian has to go with the child so that then we can help them facilitate those conversations, and it's a great turnout. And then we have our global initiative, and that is we go on mission trips, right? Because human trafficking is a global issue. It's happening all over the world, right? So every summer we take at least 1 or 2 mission trips throughout the year where we go into impoverished communities and we raise awareness through our workshops in their language. Right now it's been Spanish. We've been going a lot into South America, Central America, raising awareness. And we also meet needs in the community, whether that's feeding, clothing, shoes. One time we took 500 pairs of shoes into Honduras. And then we have a safe house in Honduras where there's girls that have been rescued from human trafficking and have wraparound services there. And this is something really cool. We're giving them English. They're learning English 3 times a week via Zoom by volunteers here in the United States. That get to Zoom in with them, and we are teaching them English, and then now they're going to start art therapy.
Wow.
All via Zoom. So it's something that truly is amazing. So those are really our main programming that we provide with the Mavuno Project.
Wow, that is amazing. All those different initiatives, the power of technology.
Yes.
Well, I know a lot of people since last year. Most people seen the movie Sound of Freedom.
Yes.
That kind of helped reignite the issue that we have, like you said, globally.
Right.
Has that, you noticed, impact at all?
Absolutely. We were actually really grateful for that film. We were Angel Studios, the ones that produced that film. They actually paid for us to showcase the film in a private setting where we brought in all of our donors. We brought in people that wanted to be involved in the cause. And they paid for us to do a private screening in a beautiful theater down in Dania Point. And we were able to show the film and talk about our cause. And this is why, we do what we do. So we're very grateful for Angel Studio, The Sound of Freedom, and everyone that was involved in creating such an impactful movie. It's unfortunate that there was some, backlash, after that, people just trying to discredit a lot of, the things that happened, calling it conspiracy theories and things like that. But we know, we've been in the trenches. We've seen it globally, internationally, locally, with our eyes that this is happening.
So then you would say that movie is not a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy. We don't know about the main character. He shares his story. This is his true story. But the film in itself and what they're portraying is absolutely not a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always, I notice in life that no matter what you're doing, whether it's positive or not, there's always someone out there that has something negative to say.
Yeah.
And in my experience, it's usually someone who's not doing nearly as much as you're trying to do
Right.
to impact the world positively. So, I mean, you can't lose sleep over people like that.
No.
Ignore them. What has been, so you've been on some mission trips. You have anyone in particular that you could share that can maybe inspire other people that might want to get involved in the mission trip?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you about our first ever mission trip as far as to how we got into doing these what we called human trafficking awareness mission trips. We went to Honduras and we served a school out there. And there was the director who was in her mid-20s at the time. She was directing one of the schools. She was one of the helpers there directing the school. An amazing job in a very impoverished community. We're talking about a school where kids that live in trash mines go to. I don't know if you've ever seen those type of communities, but just think about a trash mine, a landfill of trash, and there's huts in between and surrounding the trash mine. Wow. And people live in these huts. So this school was actually the school where these kids went to. So she was doing an amazing job. However, while we're there, we did not go with the intention of human trafficking. We went because we were invited by this organization. We wanted to scout the land, see what else we can do to help this organization. And then we walk into a restaurant and we see these two men and this young girl who was obviously dressed up to look older. And I had already had the knowledge that I had. We were already doing human trafficking awareness here locally. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, whoa, like this is happening. This is happening here. And I spoke to the people we were with. We're not police. We're not the FBI. We just had to, at this point, just pray for the safety, of that girl. And that was one open eye. And then when we left and we went back to Honduras, I told the organizer of the organization on the ground, I said, look, we're going to come back. But the next time we come back, we're going to bring in our human trafficking awareness program. I said, we have to raise awareness. This is what we saw. This is happening. We have to let the kids know what's going on. He loved it. He agreed. He knew it was an issue. So then we went back with our program, with our curriculum. And the director was gone. The director of the school was gone. The same men that we saw in that restaurant, they were making their way in the village, promising the girls a better job, a better opportunity in another country. And they said, come with us. We're going to give you a better job. You're going to get better pay to be a teacher. You're going to get better, better this, better that. And when we returned, just in time, right, to give the awareness, she was gone. She was gone. And the organization said she left with those men. It took years for her to be able to reach back out to her family. Years. But I would never forget that feeling of feeling like we were too late. We were too late. And I said, no, we're going to do this. We're going to go to these countries. We're going to let them know this is happening. Just as it's happening here, it's happening over there. And then let them know, not anyone that's promising you a dream, come to United States where, there's jobs, there's this or that. That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily the intent of the person. So we try to prevent all those things when we go on our mission trips. So it's very emotional. We've had people try to sell us their kids. Oh my God. Out of necessity. We go into very impoverished places. Most of the places that we go to are the trash mines. We go to those kids. They're the most vulnerable. And sometimes poverty makes people desperate to do things, to believe in people because they want to get out. So it is very emotional. We've had parents try to sell us their kids as what they call servitude, servitude meaning they'll approach us and say, hey, if you take my daughter, she'll cook, she'll clean. She already knows how to wash clothes. She knows how to wash dishes, and because they're hoping for a better life. And then that's when we come in and say, hey, let me tell you what's happening. Don't think because I'm here helping you that I'm a good person. I could be someone that, yeah, I'm going to take your kid. I'm going to give you $200-300 or whatever it is, the price. And I'm going to take your kid and I'm going to go sell them, you know? So, it's a very emotional, but it's very nice. We go into the schools in those countries. We've been to Honduras, we've been to Haiti, we've been to Nicaragua, we've been to El Salvador. There's plans of us going into Panama now, and even there's opportunities and invitations to go into Africa. So it's just been divine of how those doors have been opening, of just people knowing what we do, not just knowing, but trusting what we do, trusting our message, and letting us go and make their communities aware of what's happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. I'm a little choked up myself. When you go into these countries, how is it that you're able to drive home that trust to for people to let you in and let you in the schools?
Yeah. So,
Was it hard in the beginning?
well, it is hard in the beginning, but that's why we go through local partnerships.
Okay.
You know, we don't go in there alone. We don't believe in going into, especially into another country and thinking, well, this is our territory. We don't do it like that. We blend in with the people. We provide a need. We feed them, we clothe them, whatever it is, we provide a need. And I believe that when people see that, they'll be more open to listening, to what you have to say, to listening. And then working in conjunction with those local organizations that are honestly doing this day and night in those countries. So they've built a trust with the community. So it's all about relationships. It's all about relationships, building we play with the kids. We play soccer with them. We give them toy. We celebrate birthday parties. We do like one huge birthday party for all the kids in the community. They come, they eat, they break piñatas, they eat cake, and then, once they say, well, you know what? The local community trusts them, they're meeting needs. We'll listen. What do you have to say? And then here locally in the US, we've actually been really blessed to collaborate with amazing organizations that are doing great things. And when I say trust, I don't necessarily think other organizations aren't doing good work. I think it's because we've been proven stable. We've been doing this since 2009, and we're just stable, and we haven't shifted from our mission. Our mission is to prevent human trafficking with the power of education and a message of hope. It's simple. People get it. They trust that. People have asked me, why don't you go and rescue survivors? Why don't you go and work with survivors? That's not what we're called to do. That's not our expertise. That's not what we want to educate. And I believe that if you stay in your lane, if you know that you're good at doing that one thing, perfect that one thing and do it well and show up. And I think that that's when I say, people trust us. They trust our message. We've been doing it for a long time. We collaborate with other organizations that work with survivors, so there is a collaboration of many. Every year I go to the Super Bowl and I collaborate with an organization called It's a Penalty. It's an amazing organization. They're based out of the UK. They found out of what we're doing, and every year they contract us in contract me in, and I go and I educate the hospitality staff right before the Super Bowl. They train employees of large hotel organizations to look, what are the things to look out for when there's a mass crowd of tourists that are now going into a city. So those are the amazing collaborations that we've been able to have with other organizations that are doing similar things that we're doing.
That's great. That's
yeah.
Amazing. Speaking about the the collaborations, or anybody you'd like to give a shout out over the years that you've been connected with, continue
It's
with
a
it?
penalty. It's an amazing organization. We just love what they do. We believe in the messaging. We believe in the campaigns that they run around large sporting events. They harness the power of sport to bring awareness. They bring in NFL players. I mean, it's just an amazing thing that they're doing when there's at large sporting events. There's local organizations like Glory House that have been helping survivors. They are more survivor focused when it comes to restoration, healing, and recovery. They've been doing an amazing job. We've known them for years. There's Christie House. I mean, there's so many other organizations locally and around the world, really, that are doing amazing work that we highly respect. And we know that not one organization can do it all. This is $150 billion industry. Not one organization is going to solve it.
Right.
But we're all sticking to our lanes. We're all doing what we know what to do and what we can do to hopefully put a dent in a large, scale.
Right. And speaking about what we can do, so locally, as parents and as people that just want to get involved, what would you recommend some of the things they can do?
Well, I'm gonna be flat out. We always love our monthly donors.
Okay.
We're always seeking monthly donors. They help us get into these classrooms. The public school system, they don't pay us. They don't pay, this is a service that we provide to the children. So they help us, our partners, our champions, they help us go into these classrooms. Maybe that might not be something someone can do right now, but you have a network. Maybe you know of a teacher, a teacher that will say, hey, we're approved vendors in Miami-Dade County to go into the schools and say, hey, I want you to come to my school. Or maybe you know of another teacher. So, raising awareness about what we do within your network is a huge help. Maybe you might want to volunteer at one of our Kids United events. Maybe you might want to volunteer. We also pack hygiene products and we pass out hygiene products to the local organizations that do support survivors. You might want to volunteer for that. You might want to volunteer and come on a mission trip. That is a little bit more of a sensitive. All people that come on mission trips are, background checked, they're vetted. There's an application process that they have to go through. But maybe that's something that you feel in your heart you want to do. Say, you know what, I have a heart for other countries, and that's okay, and so you can participate. So there's many ways that you can get involved with us. But again, we're always looking for people not just to support us, but to partner with us, to be involved in the family of the people who support our organization. We have raised awareness in Broward College and Miami-Dade College, where we've done things with their students to be out in the community, teach them how to advocate within those colleges. So in that form, we are in Broward and in Miami-Dade.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just going to ask you, does it matter what particular school? Is it elementary, middle school, high school?
8 years and up. So it can be from 8 all the way up through college.
Okay.
Talk to the college kids. We talk to as young as 8 years old. We feel that that's the proper age as far as to go into the schools.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, I'll definitely get involved as much as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, if people go to my Instagram, you'll see the first reel I have is the conversation I had with Andre.
Yeah.
And because it really is something very dear to my heart that I knew about what was going on, but not as much as you're describing today.
Yeah.
It gives me an opportunity after speaking with you to understand how I can get involved and things I
Yeah.
can do alongside of helping financially, but there's also more of a hands-on approach that
Yes.
I can do and many of us can do. So I'm really glad that you shared all that information. Now, moving forward, what would you like to see in the future?
Well, moving forward, what we would like to see in the future as far as our vision is that every child and family have an opportunity to live a life of freedom and find hope for tomorrow. Obviously, that's on a global, right, scale. That's our vision. Practically, with the Mavuno Project, we would like to be a household name in every school, in every organization, in every place, right, where people say, hey, who can educate us? Call the Mavuno Project.
Right.
You know, call them up. You know, they do great work, you know. And we don't just walk away and leave them with this like lost hope of like, oh my God, this is just happening. We part of our mission statement is to inspire hope. Look, there is hope. There is hope. Just this week, we were able to walk. We don't always do this, but when it happens, it just reconfirms why we do what we do. We just walked a survivor locally into a safe home this week. You know, a person knew about her. They called us because they trust us. They say, hey, do you know where she can go? I said, absolutely. Through our partnerships, you know exactly where she can go. We'll pick her up. We'll take her. You know, so that's what we long in the hope in the, you know, we want to be the household name, just like, you know, Susan G. Komen is for cancer, you know, just like United Way is for, you know, the things they do, the Mavuno Project. And it's okay. We can be that here locally and in the places that we've been invited to go, you know, and then hopefully the other states will hear about us too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. And well, you guys can always lean on me if anything I can do to help share the cause. Now, if someone wants to get involved, how will they find you and contact you? Where's the best place for them to go?
I would say the best place is social media. We are active. We are literally posting every day, every other day. You can see real time what we're doing. On Instagram, the Mavuno Project, MAV as in Victor, UNO project. And really quick, Mavuno is Swahili, and it stands for harvest. And we believe in sowing seeds of education so that we can reap a harvest of freedom. So, yeah, that's what Mavuno translates into. It's a Swahili word. And we're there. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You can also follow me on LinkedIn personally, Tania Andre, because I'm also, you know, sharing there as well as far as everything that we're involved in and what we do in the community and all that fun stuff. I would love to connect with all of you. I want to connect with all of you. If this resonated with you, there's something there. Let's make something happen.
Absolutely. And do you guys have a website?
We do. We have a website. It's www.themavunoproject.com.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Tania.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you guys again for watching the episode. Again, I'm Stephen Pirano, and this was a Cyber Health Podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.